I never expected to come home and find a full SWAT team surrounding my house, or my 8 months pregnant wife in tears after being physically shoved by our power-hungry HOA president. But Karen had no idea who she was messing with. The chief of police doesn't take kindly to having his family threatened. The day started like any normal Thursday. I kissed Emily goodbye, my hand lingering on her 8-month pregnant belly as our baby girl kicked against my palm. "Take it easy with the garden today," I reminded her, knowing how stubborn she could be about maintaining our vegetable garden despite her condition. What we hadn't anticipated when buying our dream colonial on Maple Street was discovering it came with a nightmare HOA, led by Karen Reynolds, a 50-something woman with highlighted blonde hair, designer outfits, and a vindictive streak wider than the county line. She'd gotten herself elected HOA president 6 months ago on promises of improving community standards and protecting property values. As chief of police for Willow Creek, I dealt with difficult personalities daily, but Karen operated like she was running a dictatorship, not a neighborhood association. The warnings had started 3 weeks ago. Bright orange notices about unauthorized agricultural activity in the front yard. Emily's vegetable garden wrapped around the side of our house, with raised beds visible from the street. According to Karen's new rules, pushed through during a meeting when half the neighborhood was away, vegetable gardens were now restricted to backyards only. Food-producing plants lower aesthetic appeal and therefore property values, the citation claimed. Emily and I had discussed it and decided to stand our ground. The garden was on our property, meticulously maintained, and several neighbors had mentioned how much they enjoyed seeing fresh vegetables growing. Plus, our property deed predated the HOA by decades, giving us grandfather exemptions that Karen conveniently ignored. "Just ignore her," I'd told Emily that morning. "She can't actually do anything." Those words would haunt me just 8 hours later. The garden wasn't Karen's first target. She'd been systematically harassing specific homeowners, issuing ridiculous fines for infractions so minor they were almost comical. Mrs. Chen, the 78-year-old widow across the street, showed me stacks of violation notices, $350 for wind chimes, creating noise pollution, $500 for rose bushes 2 inches taller than regulation. Mark Rodriguez, a firefighter down the street, had been repeatedly fined for his service vehicle being visible in his driveway. "She even schedules HOA meetings during my shift so I can't attend votes," he explained one evening. Susan Parker, a nurse with 3 children, nodded in agreement. "Same here. Every meeting happens when most hospital staff are working. And the fines keep increasing." I should have connected the dots sooner. There was a pattern to Karen's targeting first responders with irregular hours, families with children, especially those with special needs, and elderly residents on fixed incomes. People who either couldn't fight back effectively or might be motivated to move rather than deal with constant harassment. Last week, Emily had overheard Karen on her phone while inspecting a neighbor's property. "Yes, we're making excellent progress, clearing out the undesirables," she'd said. "The investors will be pleased with how quickly we're moving." "What investors?" Emily had asked me that evening. "And why is she talking about clearing people out?" I promised to look into it, but between budget meetings and a series of break-ins downtown, I hadn't had time. Another mistake I would soon regret. This morning, Karen had delivered her most threatening notice yet. Our garden had to be removed within 24 hours, or we would face maximum enforcement actions. Emily called me worried, but I reassured her again that the HOA had limited actual power. "The garden keeps me sane, Michael," Emily had said. "Besides, the doctor said light activity is good for both of us." I couldn't argue with that. The garden had been Emily's passion since we bought the house 3 years ago. I promised to handle Karen personally when I got home. But Karen had other plans. She arrived at our house at noon, armed with a camera and a measuring tape, letting herself into our yard without permission. When Emily asked her to leave, Karen became aggressive, demanding immediate compliance with her garden removal order. "This neighborhood has standards," she'd snapped. "People like you are bringing down property values for everyone." When Emily stood her ground, Karen had physically pushed her. "You'll remove these eyesores today or face the consequences," she'd threatened before storming off. I was in a budget meeting with the mayor when my phone started buzzing repeatedly. 3 missed calls from Emily, then a text that made my blood run cold. "SWAT team at our house," Karen called them. "I'm scared." I bolted from the room without explanation, sirens blaring all the way home. The scene that greeted me was surreal. 4 police cruisers and a tactical response vehicle were parked haphazardly in front of our house. Officers in full tactical gear, my officers, were positioned around the perimeter, looking confused and uncomfortable. And there, standing in the middle of my front lawn with a triumphant smile, was Karen Reynolds in her cream-colored pantsuit, manicured finger pointing dramatically at my front door while speaking to Officer Jenkins, who looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. I slammed my car door hard enough to make heads turn. "What the hell is going on here?" I demanded, striding forward in my full chief's uniform, the color drained from Jenkins' face. "Chief, we got a call about an aggressive confrontation and possible weapons." Karen cut him off. "These officers are doing their job, responding to a serious threat. Your wife assaulted me when I came to address the continued violations." "She's lying." Emily's voice came from our front porch, where she stood with hands protectively over her pregnant belly. Her face was tear-stained, a red mark visible on her arm. "She pushed me when I wouldn't let her take pictures of our garden. She said she was performing an official inspection." I felt a calm, cold rage settle over me, the kind that had served me well through 20 years in law enforcement. "Stand down," I ordered my team. "All units stand down immediately." The officers lowered their weapons, relief washing over their faces. Karen's smug expression faltered as I turned to her. "Ms. Reynolds, did you just call a SWAT team to my house under false pretenses?" "I called the police about a threatening homeowner," Karen stuttered, her confidence cracking. "How was I supposed to know you live here? If your wife had simply complied with HOA regulations..." I cut her off. "Officer Davis, please review the dispatch call that came in regarding this address." Davis immediately pulled out his tablet, tapping through to the recorded call. He hit play, and Karen's voice rang out clearly. "I need officers at 1478 Maple Street immediately. The homeowner is threatening me with violence. I think I saw a gun. Send everyone you've got." The lie was so blatant, so calculated to provoke maximum response, that even Karen had the decency to look embarrassed. "You falsified an emergency report," I said quietly. "That's a felony in this state." Karen's eyes darted around, looking for escape. I felt threatened. She raised her voice and stepped toward me aggressively. Emily let out a disbelieving laugh. "I was watering tomatoes when you came into our yard without permission. You demanded I remove the plants immediately, and when I said no, you shoved me. I'm 8 months pregnant, Karen. You could have made me fall." I turned to Jenkins. "Did you check my wife for weapons when you arrived?" He shook his head, looking mortified. "No, sir." It was immediately apparent that the call was exaggerated. "Exaggerated," I repeated. "Ms. Reynolds called in a false emergency, used valuable city resources during an actual bank robbery downtown, and physically assaulted my pregnant wife. That's not exaggeration, that's criminal behavior." Karen's smile had completely disappeared. "You can't intimidate me with your badge," she hissed. "I have friends on the city council. This neighborhood needs standards. And your little garden commune is bringing down property values for everyone." I stepped closer, keeping my voice professional. "Karen Reynolds, You're under arrest for filing a false police report, assault on a pregnant woman, and misuse of emergency services. As Davis began reading her rights, Karen's face turned purple. This is outrageous. You can't arrest me for enforcing HOA rules. But as the handcuffs clicked into place, something unexpected happened. Neighbors began emerging from their homes, many filming with their phones, and they were applauding. Mrs. Garcia, the retired kindergarten teacher, next door, rushed to Emily, wrapping a protective arm around her shoulders. We saw everything from our security camera, she told me. That woman pushed Emily hard. I've already saved the footage. Mr. Chen approached, his normally quiet demeanor replaced with obvious anger. She's been terrorizing all of us, Chief. Last week she fined me $500 because my trash can was visible from the street for an extra hour. Others joined in, each with their own story of Karen's reign of terror. As Karen was placed in the back of a police car, still sputtering threats about lawyers and connections, I held Emily close, feeling our baby kick between us. What she did to me isn't the only problem, Emily whispered. While she was here, she said something strange about making sure all the undesirables were removed from the neighborhood before the investors arrived next month. What investors? That simple question triggered an investigation that uncovered a conspiracy far beyond garden vegetables and paint colors. With the help of Sarah Jenkins, our department's best analyst, we discovered Karen wasn't just an overzealous HOA president. She was a real estate agent secretly working for Westlake Development Corporation, a company planning to convert our entire neighborhood to commercial development. The documents painted a disturbing picture. Westlake had been quietly buying properties throughout our neighborhood, always at below-market prices, always from homeowners who had faced extreme harassment from the HOA. Karen wasn't enforcing rules to maintain property values. She was deliberately tanking them, making life so miserable that people would sell cheap just to escape. At an emergency neighborhood meeting that evening, Mr. Patel, our IT specialist neighbor, recovered deleted HOA emails from the community server. The screen filled with Karen's own words to Westlake executives discussing progress on clearing out problem properties and timeline for complete acquisition. Karen lunged for the computer but was blocked by Mark. "These are private communications," she shouted, her composure finally cracking. "The HOA server belongs to the community," I explained. "There's no expectation of privacy when using it for business communications, especially business that directly conflicts with your duties as president." As more emails appeared, detailed strategies for targeting specific homeowners, schedules of increased fines designed to force sales, even discussions about which homes would be demolished first, Karen's facade completely crumbled. "You people don't understand what's best for this area," she shouted, voice shrill with desperation. "This development would increase property values tenfold. Everyone would benefit. Everyone except the families who've built their lives here," Emily said, quietly. "Everyone except the community that already exists." Karen turned on her, pointing accusingly. "Your pathetic little garden and your growing family don't matter more than progress. If you people had just sold when you were supposed to—" She stopped abruptly, realizing what she'd admitted in front of 60 witnesses and at least a dozen recording smartphones. In the weeks that followed, our investigation uncovered the full extent of Karen's scheme. Westlake Development had been working systematically through several neighborhoods, always using the same tactics: place someone on the HOA board, harass homeowners into selling at reduced prices, then flip the entire area for commercial development. 3 city council members were implicated in accepting bribes to fast-track zoning changes. Karen's arrest made national news, bringing attention to predatory HOA practices across the country. Our neighborhood, Emily's garden, became a symbol of resistance. Neighbors who had removed their own gardens under Karen's reign of terror came to us for seedlings to replant. The new HOA board, led by Mrs. Chen and Mark Rodriguez, rewrote the bylaws to protect homeowners and ensure fair treatment regardless of occupation or family status. 6 weeks later, our daughter Lily was born healthy and strong, with the entire neighborhood celebrating. As I stood on our front porch holding my newborn daughter while Emily rested inside, I looked out at the vegetable garden that had started it all. Sometimes, standing your ground against a bully isn't just about protecting your own rights. It's about protecting an entire community. The SWAT team Karen had sent to intimidate my pregnant wife had instead exposed a criminal conspiracy and ultimately strengthened the very neighborhood she'd tried to destroy.